Good morning. Welcome to the fourth meeting of the Interim Joint Committee on Agriculture, and we'll get started with roll call.
Senator Carpenter, Senator Cattleman, Senator Givens, Senator Howe, Senator Parrott, Senator Thayer, Senator Webb, Senator West,
Present in the room.
Senator Westerfield, Senator Wise,
Present remotely out of district.
Representative Callaway, Representative Dixon,
Present remotely.
Representative Dossett,
Present remotely from the 9th District.
Representative Pfister,
Present in the room.
Representative Flood,
Present from the 75th District, thinking of my good colleague Myron Dossett this morning.
Representative Graham, Representative Hart,
Present in the room.
Representative Imes,
Present in the room.
Representative King,
Present in the room.
Representative Cook,
Present from the 72nd District.
Representative Kulkarni,
Present from the 40th District.
Representative McPherson,
Present in the room.
Representative Meeks,
Present from the 42nd District.
Representative Pratt,
Present remotely out of district.
Representative Rayburn,
Present in the 47th District.
Representative Raymond,
I'm here from my district.
Representative Reed,
Here in the room.
Representative Stevenson, Representative Tate,
Present in my district.
Representative Thomas,
Here in the room.
Representative Tipton,
Present in the room.
Senator Hornback, here, and Chairman Heath.
Here,
We have a quorum.
we do have a quorum. I have a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion on the minutes.
Motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Motion carried. Minutes approved. We're going to invite the Kroger team up to the table first this morning. Rachel Ross, and ask you, and if y'all want to come on up to the table, we'll let you guys go first. And introduce yourself for the record, and the floor is yours. And your mic may not be on. The green light should light up.
All right. Well, good morning. I'm Rachel Ross with the Kroger Company. I'm the Vice President of Merchandising for Louisville Division.
I'll turn mine on. If your mic, pull your mic a little closer, if you will.
Okay. Do you need me to repeat?
No, you're
Very
fine.
Good. Okay. Very good. All right. I hope I need to. Sorry for a moment. I should just.
It's just not showing on the screen.
Okay.
Are we doing something wrong?
You need to go to the Zoom call down the middle, the bottom. Well, actually, you didn't get out of that. See that blue? Get that.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how it always works till you need it, and then it decides not to work.
And then hit share, right? Yep. Got it.
We thought we were prepared.
Oh, I think you're good. I see.
Okay, we're good. All right, and then I'll start the.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Well, I apologize for that.
No problem.
Again, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to share our story here today. Again, I'm Rachel Ross with a Kroger company and Vice President of Merchandising in the Louisville market. In my role, I oversee all of our sales and merchandising efforts on top of our local partnerships and our sponsorships. So really, when you think about this past year, we've had a lot of transition and acceleration in our local efforts, and just wanted to share a little bit of our story with you today. Obviously, the relationships and partnerships that we have and that we've established for the years really helped us and really believe that it put us in a great position last year to be able to provide local food for our communities. And really, our relationships are stronger than they've ever been, and we're committed to continue to look for new ways and opportunities to grow our future growth and partnerships around local. So when at Kroger, our purpose is to truly feed the human spirit, and obviously a big, bold statement, but what that really means is that we're driven to do more than just sell food. It is really up to us to help make the lives around us better, and there's no way to do that with being local. Our vision is to be top of mind for our customers and communities, no matter how they shop, whether it's in store or online. And when they think of fresh food, we want them to think of Kroger. And again, when you think about fresh food and local, it is so important to our growth and who we are. It is our mission to deliver a best-in-class experience for our customers every time they shop with us. We count on our teams to bring this to life in our stores and the experience that we deliver, and we strive to live out our purpose, and we're guided by our values each and every day. When you think about our Louisville division in our market, we operate 116 stores across 3 states. So we have Kentucky, Indiana, and Southern Illinois. Kroger as a whole, we operate 103 stores here in Kentucky, and that's based off of our Cincinnati division as well as our Louisville division. We serve over 129 million customers a year, which we're very proud of, and we employ over 19,000 associates in the state, and we have over 700 leadership positions. And on top of that, we're continuing to hire as we think about how we continue to be there for our communities. We're proud of the contributions that we have to the community and what we deliver. We donated over $1.7 million to local charities to end hunger in the communities. We've diverted over 4 million pounds of food that could have ended up in landfill, went to serve our neighbors through our food rescue program. Our over $3.6 million has been supported through our community rewards program, and over $1 million has been raised in our stores through our Zero Hunger, Zero Waste efforts in 2020. Sorry. So when you think about how we really continue to measure up through our community support, it really is about the local partnerships. Our local partnerships in supporting the community is important to who we are. And again, that is about supporting local agriculture. We've invested over $2 million annually with 10 of our local farm partners to provide fresh, local proteins. Our dairy is local, Winchester Farms, and we partner with over 60 Kentucky dairy farmers. As part of our ongoing efforts to support our local farmers, we partnered with 4 Kentucky dairy farms with our Kentucky Cheese Cares program, where 50 cents from every sale goes to Feeding Kentucky. We've invested over $500,000 annually with 10 Kentucky farmers, and we're one of the first retailers to launch the app Harvest. Last but not least, our people. We continue to provide local growth and jobs for the economy with over 200 Kentucky Proud partners. So leading to our journey and telling our story here, Kroger has always been committed to local and what that investment means to our local farm families across the country. Here in Kentucky, we were the first retailer to partner with Kentucky Proud in 2005 and have continued to grow that partnership through permanent in-store displays that you can find in our stores, and they're located in high traffic locations in our frozen sections, which we continue to see an advancement in growth. We currently partner with 200 Kentucky Proud vendors. And then when you move along our timeline here, in 2018, we launched our partnership with Kentucky Cattleman's. This was a 15 years in the making and a dream come true for both Kroger and Kentucky Cattleman's. Beef Solutions has purchased over 3,400 cows from 242 individual farms across 67 counties in Kentucky. As a result, sales of Kentucky Cattleman's ground beef has placed 2.7, almost 2.8 million back into Kentucky farms through the purchase of these cows. In June of 2019, Kroger and Marksberry Farm teamed up to launch a local pasture-raised pork sausage program. There was nothing like it in existence, and it was the perfect complement to the recently launched Kentucky Cattleman's beef program. Because we already really had strong working relationships with Cattleman's, and of course Marksberry being a multi-species harvest facility, we were very well positioned with the COVID shortages that began in the spring of 2020. Having such a geographically relationship with our producers, we were able to secure thousands of pounds of ground beef and sausage for our stores in a matter of just a few days. If we didn't have that relationship, that would not have been possible. Larger harvest facilities could not get enough volume generated due to the major slowdown in production. There are many reasons to support local, but it became very clear last year that there's a distinct advantage to the short chain that comes along from drawing from local supply. During the pandemic, one of the most sought-after proteins was ground beef, and we were able to offer our customers several varieties when other retailers could not. Today, we continue to use all the products we launched or brought in during 2020 or before. In May of 2020, we also began our partnership with Freedom Run Farms and their local lamb. When you think about prior to the pandemic, Freedom Run Farms was in restaurants only, from Kentucky all the way to New York. And when the shutdown occurred overnight, that changed. That service business just disappeared. And there was hundreds of lambs standing in the field in various stages of finishing. 27 shepherds and their families were affected. And that's when our partnership began. And it truly was a win-win for us. And a great opportunity to a much overlooked protein, which stays in our assortment today. December 20th, in 2020, Kentucky Cheese Cares. That program was born out of the need to step in and help local dairy farms, families after the closure of several dairy facilities. We asked our incredible partners how we could help join forces in creating a new product offering for our customers that both supported the Kentucky dairy farms as well as those in our communities facing hunger. We currently partner with the 4 dairy farms across Kentucky, and like I said, 50 cents from every item sold is directly given back to Feeding Kentucky, where it in turn purchased milk, and it's just been a huge win for us. In August 2021, we launched our new milk offering from Cheney's Dairy Farm in Bowling Green, Kentucky. We have 40 stores that offer that product today and 7 additional SKUs. Again, this is just a sample of how we've stepped up to support local and that we continue to look for new opportunities in the years to come. So when we think about our next steps and how we continue to look forward and how we continue to grow local, when our Kroger company is committed to diversity, as it's been a big leap of how we're going forward. We have plans to advance our diverse partnerships from $3.4 billion to $10 billion by 2030. So here in Kentucky, we're currently looking to build partnerships with Black Soil Kentucky out of Lexington. We stay committed and remain focused on high quality product selections. We continue to increase our Kentucky Proud Partners in store by leveraging our relationships with the Kentucky Agricultural Department. We have local resources that we continue to build upon with Fish Market and Creation Gardens. They've been instrumental in our success with the setup from farms to getting onto the grocery shelves, and there is so much more for us to bring to the table. We continue to look for opportunities to grow innovation with our local partnerships, especially like at Harvest, as we think about how we provide local assortment all year long. And then again, as we think about how we navigate on our current new reality, and how we look forward, we're really looking forward to getting back to that kind of norm as we think about Kentucky Proud food shows and expanding our reach and growth. So is there any questions?
Thank you. I think we do have either some questions or comments. A very impressive presentation. I didn't realize the scope of Kroger and what all you guys do. So thanks for coming and sharing. Chairman Hornbeck has a question or a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rachel, I want to thank you for being here today. And Kroger does a great job in cooperating with local producers and producing and promoting local produce and everything else. So we appreciate what you all have done on that. But I have had a lot of consumers that have asked me about better labeling, is what they call it, on some of the food products. And it's not just necessarily local produce or local food. But I don't like the labeling because I don't want Kentucky to be an outlier where whatever it is has to be packaged differently in Kentucky from everywhere else. What would you think about, and you all do a good job at this, what would you all think about some type of placards or something like where you have the tomatoes on the shelf or something like that, saying where they were grown or if they're local or when they were produced? You know, apples are one thing that that a lot of consumers have mentioned about when were they produced. Were they produced last year? And they're just now being, because they got a good shelf life on them. You know, just some type of better signage informing the consumer about where that product came from or how fresh it was. And like I say, you all do a better job than most at that already, because I commend you all. You do a great job with the local produce, and whether it be Cheney's milk or whoever it is, you can always tell where it's coming from. Just kind of your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you for the comment. And it is something that we, local is important to us. We want to tell our story to the customer. So the customer-facing communication is critical for us. We have been in the works of continuing to enhance our local signage, because I think that is important. A little bit of the challenge that we sometimes run into, especially because of our size and the scale, it is when we're looking for local opportunities, the scalability of being able to have it across 116 stores sometimes is a challenge. So some of the challenges that we face with some of that signage, if it's not taken down, it sometimes is misleading. So we're looking at how we tell our story with signage in more broad spectrum of where some of the local products come from, because it could be from that particular farm today, and then the next shipment, if they had to source additional product to be able to be in stock, could change. So we are working on our local signage to really share our partnerships with farm families. But that's a little bit of the challenge that we have today. But tags and enhancements, new crop for is important as well. So there is signage that we work to, because we want that to be in front of the customer.
Well, thank you all. Thank you very much for what you all have done. And I know it's a work in progress and it takes time, but thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate the comment.
And Representative Tipton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rachel, appreciate you being here today. As a former dairy farmer many years ago, our milk was sent to the Winchester plant. They're in Kroger, so I appreciate that former relationship. Yesterday in the Appropriations and Revenue Committee, we heard a lot of testimony about supply chain disruptions that are going on across the country. How is that impacting your stores, your business, and also how is the ability to use local product enable you to overcome that?
So thank you for the question. So that is a little bit of like what we experienced last year with the proteins. If we didn't have the local connections, our company would not have been able to source the needs that we had. So the partnerships have been critical for that. So when we think about the supply chain today, it's disruptive and it changes daily on who's affected and how it's affecting our business. So we do have, I have local merchants that report to me directly, our local relationships. Anytime there's opportunity or shortage, like we're always leaning on them to see what promotions and availability we have in efforts to be able to help supply and fill those gaps wherever possible.
Thank you, Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here today. Commenting in a question, when my wife and I moved to Murray from Chattanooga in 2004, we moved into a town of 10,000 people that had a better Kroger grocery store than any of our offerings or options in Chattanooga. And it was a very pleasant surprise for us to have that great of depth of offerings, and thank you for that. My question, you had, in some of your slides, you were talking about an investment in some of our produce and protein producers. What does that investment look like?
The investment in dollars, or?
It just references $500,000 invested annually, 10 Kentucky farms, $2 million invested annually, 10 local farm partners for protein. What does that investment look like? What kind of investment is that?
So I can't speak to all of it, but so I'll answer some of it, and I obviously would be happy to follow up with additional details. But our investments into product, to building product assortment, to get it into the promotional categories and filling some of those gaps there, as well as investing from any avenue to help kind of support and supply and get them up into our system.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Representative Rayburn. Raymond, I'm sorry.
Hey there. Thanks for being here. I wanted to ask a question about Louisville in particular. I've got some of the finest Kroger stores of all here in my district at District 31, but I think it surprises some people to learn that a lot of Louisvillians live in areas where they can't get access to fresh food. And more than that, in Louisville, sometimes at Kroger stores, you see a vast difference in quality and selection based actually on the income of the people who live in that area. So I wanted to ask you, considering that there's a business model to Kroger, and I get that, but I'm hearing a commitment to community as well. What is the plan to be accessible to all families in Louisville?
So thank you for the question. So obviously it's important for us to be part of the communities. We've done a lot of work. So so just to answer your assortment question, so based off size and segmentation, our assortment changes based off of the needs of the consumer. As far as freshness and quality, our assortment doesn't change. It all comes from the same warehouse. It is really about how we take care of that product once it hits the stores, and from a conditioning and replenishment and buying. So obviously there's some operational mixes that fit into that, but as far as having accessible food, there's a lot of work that we have done. We actually do have a mobile market that we have that we get into different areas in the community that don't have access to a local grocery store, and are able to provide local fresh foods and offerings that maybe they couldn't get to a particular store, as well as we are actually testing and piloting what we call hometown pickup to be able to reach some different areas and communities that don't have that, to help with convenience, where they pick up in an order and we get to a local area in their communities to be able to deliver that product to them. So it is very important to us, and we have a lot of folks sitting on different boards to make sure that we're filling gaps and being part of the community. It's not just something that we say, but it's something that we live by, to make sure that we're listening. So we take feedback and do listening sessions regularly to help kind of work towards that, improving that every day.
Thank you very much. Anything else? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
Okay, you're good. Thank you for your presentation. It's been very informative. Love to sit and talk some more, but we have some more presentations.
Yep.
We want to allow time for those, and we'll get you off the hot seat.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for the time.
And we'll have our cattleman, Dave Maples, come. And if you have any guests, feel free to bring those with you. Nikki, you're up next after Dave. If you want to come up and, oh yeah, I see you got the chairs full.
Yeah, we're full.
All right. Sounds good.
So my name's Dave Maples. I'm the exec at the Kentucky Cattlemen's Association. My president, my volunteer president, Chris Cooper from Madison County is here with me as well today. And then my president-elect, Carrie King, is back in the back. Also have Caitlin Hawkins with me today. Caitlin is our supply chain coordinator for this local product that Rachel just talked about, and she can answer some of your questions on how all of that works. Really appreciate Kroger. I mean, we've worked with them a long time. The last 3 years, we have really worked with them, and I can't say enough about Kroger. The other thing I got to say is I got to let y'all know how sharp Kelly is. I mean, Kelly called me 2 months ago about this very topic, and her timing couldn't have been any better, because I know all of y'all have a lot of interest in being on the Ag Committee, but in D.C. today, the House Ag Committee is going to meet, and I think Senator Grassley and Secretary Vilsack are testifying on this very topic.
Dave, is your mic on? Is your green light
if it
on?
is, there it is. Now
All
it
right.
is.
You
So-
can back up a little bit
Yeah.
and compliment Kelly again,
Right.
because I
No,
agree.
So Kelly's smart. Kelly's good. And she's right on topic. So y'all might want to watch the House Ag Committee this afternoon as we go through there. We won't take a lot of time. We got a few slides, and the first thing I want to thank y'all for what you do and allowing us to come. So just a little bit about our industry. If you look at this, it's like an hourglass across the bottom. A lot of cow-calf operators across the country. In Kentucky, there are 38,000 of us that do this, about 27 head cows average. A lot of us. Then you get to that stocker level, and the funnel gets smaller. Then you get up to the feed yards, and the funnel even gets smaller. And then you get to the packers, and it gets real small. And then it starts opening back up to the further processors or wholesalers, our retail groceries like Kroger and Walmart, and our food service and export. So that's the kind of way our industry works, and we do have some touch points. So what I'm going to do today, and what Kelly asked us to do, is to talk about national. I'm going to do that. Caitlin is going to talk about local, and then I want to circle around in some opportunities. So on our national supply chain disruptors, and like I said a while ago, they're going to be talking in D.C. about our processors. We've got 4 big processors in this country that do somewhere between 75 and 80% of the business. Out of those 4, 2 of them are foreign owned. There's been lots of discussion about our supply chain and our food supply, food security, and what can we do, and how do you make it better or not. I don't know. It sure seems to be working. But there are issues, and maybe they can do something a little bit different. Over this last couple of years, we've had several black swan events in our industry, and it started back in, I think, October of 2019. There was a fire out in Holcomb, Kansas in a Tyson plant, and it really caused a big disruption in our industry. Just here in the last month, we had a fire in a JBS plant. You got to understand, most of these plants are older plants. They were built in the 80s, and they've built to last forever. So we've had that. We also had a cyber attack. I mean, JBS had to pay $11 million ransomware fine, or a ransomware. What's my word, Caitlin? Ransom. The weather breaks us up. But I think the biggest one is our global pandemic. If you'll look at that picture there, I made that picture at my Tate's Creek Kroger, and it was 3 packs of ground beef left there while I was taking the picture. And before I could get my phone back in my pocket, it was gone. But you can see that fake meat was still there. It was still there. and
that's where it belongs.
That's where it belongs. So, we have got to pay attention to our food supply and food security in this country. And let's look how we get it back to regional or local. And I think that's a huge thing. Transportation in our world is huge right now. You can't hardly get truckers. I'm told that some of our cattle buyers now are not even going and buying because they can't get a truck. Or some of these trucks are delivering cattle that have first-time drivers in them. So that's a huge issue. Labor, as y'all all know, that's an issue all across the country. So Caitlin, the next one, and I think we'll turn it over to you. And guys, I got to tell you this, local is not easy, and this young lady right here has done a magnificent job for us, and when you get into Kroger, you get into a different world, and she and I have we've had some trying times, and
Yes.
I've seen tears come down her eyes, and I've seen her ask me to leave her office, and it is not easy, and I can't say enough for the job and what she has done with this project with Kroger. So I'm going to turn it over to Caitlin.
Well, to echo Dave's comments, it's really an opportunity that we've all walked through that fire, not only just in the pandemic, but setting up some of these local supply chains and having opportunity to service some of these national retailers. As Rachel mentioned, Kentucky Cattleman's ground beef, which is the product of the parent company Beef Solutions, which I work for, launched into market in March of 2018. And since then, through our partnership with 159 Kroger locations across 4 states, as well as 3 large event venues that we have the gracious access to be providing product to, we've been able to impact a large majority of our state. As you can see on this screen, the map at the bottom of it, highlighted up in yellow, that's how many counties that we've been able to pull cows out of to produce Kentucky Cattleman's ground beef in truly just this short 3-year period. But one of the greatest things through the partnership with Kroger and these other opportunities is the fact that we've been able to put over $2.7 million back into those farm family pockets and not only engage with them both financially that way, but to help educate them as to truly how meat and how products disperse themselves out into commerce. But I wouldn't really be doing my due diligence today, especially after Dave talked about the national supply chain disruptions, if we don't touch on some local supply chain disruptions. I'm a product of Kentucky's meats industry. I have gone to school here. I've been trained in this state on the supply chain, whether that be through University of Kentucky where I got my education, or whether that be the real world experience that I'm going through right now in my job and the opportunities I've had to be in quite a few of our local processors here amongst our great state. One of the challenging aspects of Beef Solutions, particularly when we started, was the development of our supply chain. How are we going to funnel product through our company without ever actually touching the product, because we don't own a processing facility? So how do we set up our opportunity to then pull cattle from the farm through production into the Kroger stores for consumers? And really one of the biggest shifts in mentality at a local level had to be, how do you bring the national supply chain expectations and apply them at a local level? By that, we're talking about third-party animal welfare audits, which some of our processors do, some of them do not do. We're talking about third-party food safety audits that make you Global Food Safety Initiative compliant, SQF audits, whether that be that particular spectrum that you're looking at. We're also even looking and funneling just the language of global supply chain and national supply chain. UPCs, barcodes, G10s. How do we get our products scanned into these opportunities as a vendor to then become a SKU at a location at a Kroger store or wherever that may be? And in the wake of the pandemic, we also saw opportunities to expand and enlighten, and at times, yes, put a spotlight on some production inefficiencies. Kentucky's been very blessed over the last few months, year and a half, to where there's been money put into the infrastructure of a lot of our processing facilities. However, there's still some efficiencies out there. Beef Solutions experienced those when literally overnight our case counts for Kroger PO went from 500 to 900 and then to 1,200 cases. And that's a huge jump for us. We're a very small company, but we were able to depend on our supply chain partners to get those cattle moved through the system, whether that be at slaughter or whether that be further processing and packaging, and learn the inner workings, even more so the challenges and headaches that comes with that on their end. And how can we move forward as we begin to grow and expand, but Kentucky's meats industry begins to grow and expand? Food safety is a very powerful 2 words put together, right? We all can recognize that the very number one important aspect of anything that you're going to do is safety. And when it comes to a food product, food safety is number one, no matter what you are. It should be number one for your company. We're very fortunate that both of our supply chain partners we work with have food safety at the forefront, but there also still is a challenge within Kentucky supply chains to be able to put a food safety spotlight not only on just the practices, but how do we train the employees and really integrate food safety into their mentality, because it can be at a management level, but if that person that's physically touching the product does not fully buy into that concept, then you could have a damaging effect in the long run. And as Dave mentioned on his slide, weather conditions. Now, weather conditions can oftentimes be painful. Kentucky's weather changes on a dime. We, in February, in our company, experienced a huge backlog when we got that sudden cold snap with the snow and the ice, to where cattle could not get to the processing facility. So our purchase order that was 700 plus cases, we really could only deliver about 300 of those cases. A huge blow. It put Kroger in a bind. It put us in a bind. However, we maintain transparency both with our supply chain partners, our farmers, and the Kroger buying office, the Kroger meat division, and any of our other customers to help them understand some of these challenges that we're discussing today. That way they know, yes, we're trying and we're doing our due diligence, but there's just some things that are out of control and out of our hands. And labor, we can all agree, as Dave mentioned, is an overarching issue, whether that be in a processing facility, in an office, or even when we look at on the farm. We're dealing with directly farm families, and oftentimes they have to drop what they're doing to deliver animals into the supply chain. So how do they combat some of those issues, particularly when they may be also working off the farm? And as I mentioned, I'm a product of Kentucky's meats industry, and I'm very proud of that. And I'm very excited that our industry is getting the spotlight that it needs to, but we have to continue to grow and move it forward. So how can we do that? And I believe that bringing in some third-party insight from a national level, from even maybe just outside some of our particular supply chains to help grow and expand and be able to challenge us to continue to supply what we need to, but also instilling industry and professional development. So how do we build up the packing industry and the meats industry, but how do you also, like I mentioned, develop those people that are truly working on those lines to where they're fully bought and invested in what they're doing and not just looking to make their income to support their family. They're supporting an entire industry. With that, I would be amiss if I didn't mention that having an opportunity to have a centralized training facility, much like the University of Kentucky's current meats lab is being utilized as, but how do we give that site and that department the infrastructure and the tools, the equipment, the facility itself to then bring in our meat processors across the state, bring in different facets of the meats industry, beef industry, whatever protein you want to look at, to train that mentality and get those people better equipped. But we also have to be mindful to current economic opportunities for growth and expansion that lie within our state and that may be coming shortly. So, by that, I turn it back to Dave.
So Representative Reed referenced the A&R committee yesterday, and on last Thursday, I had the opportunity, my first opportunity to get to present to and pitch to a national chain that's been looking at Kentucky. They've been to Kentucky many times, and they were in Western Kentucky, and I knew it. I knew they were there, but it's the first time that we'd ever been able to talk to them. So my pitch to this company, it's the fifth largest processor in the country. It's a family-owned, American-owned company that if Chris Cooper had his dream and he could draw it up, it would be the ideal company that would come to Kentucky. It's a company that would process cows and bulls as well as a fat cattle line there. About 2,400 head. And I know some of you think that's a lot, but that's really a small to regional size processing plant. It's big enough that you could really do some good and make an impact. So I got the opportunity to pitch, and one of the things that I pitched was Kentucky's geographical location. If you look at that map on the red, you can see where the population of the United States is. Kentucky's still a very rural community, and we've got lots of cattle and lots of grass. If you look at what's happening south of us, the population is growing. I think Tennessee is plus 10% growth, Georgia, North Carolina. The people are moving south and east. They're moving out of the Northeast, and these companies are going to want to look to come and get closer to the population. One of our biggest assets that we have in Kentucky is we've got access to interstates. We've got access to railroads. We've got access to water. And we have built and we have economic development and industrial development sites, agro-industrial development sites that could handle a processing plant like this. Now, the perception of a processing plant or a stockyard is in a lot of our minds of the old, dirty, smelly ways. That's not the way it works anymore. We went through this process with Bluegrass Stockyard. The community just had a upside-down conniption fit. I was there in Midway, Kentucky, and my son was a little fellow at that time, Senator Hornback, and we walked out of there, and he said, "Daddy, I don't think anybody in there liked you." And today, some of those same people are having picnics at Bluegrass Stockyard. So we have the infrastructure. We have a robust agricultural industry. This state has a lot of agriculture. I mean, we are the largest beef cattle state east of the Mississippi. We've got lots of assets. We have a commitment to grow in our market. And if you look at the map in the middle, those are our second-tier distribution centers. That distribution center that Rachel talked about at Kroger, I mean, they service Nashville out of that center. You've got Cisco, Gordon Food Service, Performance Foods. You've got lots of second-tier distribution centers already in this state. Now, what we're doing, if I sell a cow at a stockyard today, that cow's got to drive a minimum of 500 miles before she's processed. And then it comes back 500 miles. I think our food supply chain has got to take note of that in food security. And, it's all right to not be able to go buy a pair of Wranglers or not to have a sofa or a bed. And Senator West, I'm going to tell you, my wife is not going to be happy, and she's not happy when Rachel doesn't have protein or groceries in the grocery store. And if we don't take this serious, this is the Ag Committee, and we got an opportunity to do something. And my last point that I made to these folks, and it was, to be honest with you, it was the point that where I could tell, talking to them, that they listened to me. But the last one is our strong communities built on farm family values. I mean, I go to a lot of rural counties, and I work for good people. And all of our counties can't have a Toyota plant or they can't have a Ford plant. But they can have cows and they can have grass. And I think it's a shame that we have a company that came to this state, and last week we told them they're not welcome. And we put money into an automotive plant. I don't know why we can't go back to the drawing board and ask for some incentive funds for a food business. And I know this company. I talked to my counterpart in Missouri yesterday morning. When I called him, he said, "Man, you calling to congratulate me?" They're coming to Missouri next week. They hadn't made up their mind. So what can we do? What can we do to help get a company that you actually want in this state? That's my pitch.
And that's a good question. And I think there's several of us in this room that are on your side and want to help. We'll start with Senator West and then go to Chairman Hornback, and who knows where I'll lead from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the presentation, great presentation. Dave, you and I think we've had this conversation in committee meetings before. Part of the bigger underlying problem is we've got a monopoly in the packing business.
Correct.
With JBS, Tyson, Cargill, and National Beef. And I've got two questions, Mr. Chairman, just to warn you. It's really a national security issue we're talking about here, really. So JBS, I believe, is Brazilian owned.
Right.
We have two of those are foreign owned, correct?
National and JBS.
Where is the ownership for National?
Brazil.
Both Brazil. Okay, JBS is Brazil as well. Okay.
Yep.
So we've got four big companies that are basically, in my opinion, a monopoly. Two of those are foreign owned entities who really don't care about America or Kentucky or anything like that. And I've got firsthand experience with this issue. This pandemic, Paris Stockyards is in my district. A lot of cattle flow through Paris Stockyards. And at the beginning of the lockdown, we were that close to shutting down Paris Stockyards because of the pandemic. You talk about a supply chain interruption.
Yep.
I think hamburgers like 7 days from standing cow to case. And so we've got a big problem with people in government who don't understand food supply.
Correct.
Some of the problems we had were you can't have that many people in that location. Well, how do you have a cattle auction if you don't have people there to buy the product? And so my question was going to be kind of the question you already asked us, but I'm going to shoot it right back at you. First of all, if you could comment on ongoing federal legislation like the Prime Act, things of that nature, things that we can do to promote more local slaughtering and processing. And what can we as legislators do legislatively to promote, by legislation, to promote local, small town processing and slaughtering? I know a lot of the slaughterhouses I know are filled to capacity. They've got a waiting list. And I know this goes back years ago where we had federal regulation that kind of caused a lot of consolidation there. So if you could comment on that.
Well, I think a couple of things. The small is good, but back to Rachel, you're going to have to get up to a level of numbers that would really work. You talk about the legislative piece. This document is being presented today, and I think it'd be a good read for you. The Texas A&M Ag Policy Group has spent a lot of time writing this document, and I think that would be a good thing to do. But I think what you would see in this, some of the legislative fixes may be short term, and you have to be very careful and study them. And I think that's what this document would help answer some of your questions.
Chairman Hornbeck.
Thank you, Dave, for you all being here today, and I want to commend you all in the work you all did with ag development and everything last year on the local processing we did and expanding some of those in a time of need. We put money into it. I want to thank the governor for the extra money that he put into it. But you asked a question about what can we do to help this plant, and I think, a lot of things you and I know have not been done exactly correct on trying to entice this processor to locate here in Kentucky. But I'd hope this committee today, and I'll make a motion on this when I get done talking, Mr. Chairman, but I would like to see this committee draft a letter to the governor today, and the two chairmen sign it, and send it to the governor asking him to contact the processor. They have not made their decision yet. I understand that the governor hasn't been involved, but asking him personally and his economic development cabinet to try to encourage them to locate here in Kentucky. I see we got representatives here from Hopkinsville Elevator and stuff. I know that that's the location they're talking about. I'd hope that those folks would remember all the help we've given to that facility down there, and what that's meant to a lot of people, and I think 87 counties in the state. Well, this is an issue when we write to the governor that, this can affect every county in the state. And I know Senator from Hardin that we just had a big plant come in to your area down there that affects several counties. But maybe it affects 10 counties, 20 counties. I don't know how many counties it's going to affect. But this is something with this processing facility will affect all 120 counties in Kentucky. Maybe not Jefferson County so much, but it's going to affect all 120 counties in the state of Kentucky. So I would like to make a motion that this committee draft a letter today to the governor to request his participation to contact the processing facility within the next few days. So that and encourage him to try to get them to locate here in Kentucky, because agriculture is important. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion on that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carried, and very good motion. Very good idea. Thank you. Representative McPherson.
Yes, I appreciate your all's testimony today. Could you all tell us, what the added value might be to the producer on a price per pound basis if we kept that from going 500 miles and coming back 500 miles? And And CPC, which is the biggest private east of the Mississippi, is in my district here. So
the opportunity to further impact Kentucky's farm families with a facility like this not only is going to add value to their cattle and their operation, but what it's going to do is be able to add value within that community itself, as we can all agree. As far as an exact price per pound, I caution against saying something like that today. However, what we've seen with Beef Solutions is that in the way that we've established our pricing, oftentimes we're pulling a lot of cattle from different counties that aren't located near the processor we use because they're able to get a better price within our model versus what they could get at their local markets for that animal.
And Sir Brian Seltzer was at the meeting on Thursday, and it would affect your community greatly with what Brian does with feed and the amount of cattle that they handle.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, one more.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so the one thing that we don't have too much here is feedlots in the state of Kentucky. So I think that would also transition to putting maybe feedlots in the state and keeping these cattle from going out west and being finished out west. We've got the corn here, we've got the water here, we've got the grass. We've got all the things here that we could even grow industry here by growing feedlots.
Absolutely.
It is. It's a wonderful opportunity to really cut down on that additional transportation cost and transportation headache when we look at the continued labor opportunities that may not be there.
Thank you.
Well, as Dave mentioned, I'm Chris Cooper, and I'm representing the Cattle Association this year as their president, and I really appreciate that opportunity this year. And I'm also a cattle producer, obviously, from Madison County, and I appreciate you all having time to listen to us today. But Chairman Heath and Chairman Hornback and fellow committee members, I think this is one of the biggest things that could ever impact the beef cattle industry in Kentucky from now and forever. And I think that I appreciate the motion that you made, Mr. Hornback, and drafting a letter to the governor to do everything we can to get this to happen, because this has been on our cattlemen's wish list for over 25 years. And I think it's one thing that could really impact the beef cattle industry, and like you said, every county in the state of Kentucky. And not only that, but where it's located regionally, other states. And so it would just compound many times, I think, the impact, the economic impact, the everything you can think of. I think it's just a win-win situation. And like Dave said, this is an American company. It's not one of the foreign investors. And then just so many positives here that we need. So we appreciate you all listening to us today, and thank you for your time and for your interest and your passion for it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Before you run off, Senator Webb had a question or comment, and then Representative Graham, and then we'll wrap this up and bring Nikki up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Representative McPherson hit on something I'm concerned about as a producer, and so that part of my question is answered. But I'd go one step further in saying in our letter to also ask, we heard testimony in A&R yesterday, subcommittees from Commissioner Quarles and others. And I know that members of our Ag Development Board and many of y'all were worked hard on this potential project and are continuing to do that. But, I also followed the community meetings. And that situation was very real, that community, for whatever reason, whether it was misinformation or lack of fear of change or whatever the case may be, that was, it was not pretty. So I'd go one step further and ask that a group be assembled for evidence-based presentations for the community, maybe, pre-public meetings, education, information. I mean, we've also got a lot of anti-ag groups out there that are spreading this stuff. So, and they're very, very Bible and very social media savvy and get the ear of the media more than we do, and they pay people to do this all the time. So I would go one step further and ask that the executive branch enlist a group of folks to go and do the work preliminarily, to talk to the community, to get the right information out, because that, to me, wherever it's located, and we'll take it up home. I think Representative Bentley said that yesterday, but we've got plenty of room. But and produce a little bit, but not like y'all do in West Kentucky. But certainly, I think that's an integral component of whatever we do. We've got to preface our presence with data-based, good evidence, and keep some of this stuff from bubbling up. So that's my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Agree.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, it's very exciting to hear what you all have talked about, Mr. Maples and Mr. Cooper. My question is, has there been discussions with the administration in regards to what you have talked about to us today with the packaging company coming in? Has there been discussions, or if not with the governor, with the Economic Development Office? What has it been like? And the other thing is, if that center is brought to us, what's the number of jobs possible, not only there, but the impact it will have outside of that?
Yeah. So to answer that question, what they told us the other day is 1,300 jobs, about 150 management jobs. So that'd be about a $350 to $500 million investment. So it's a big investment. To answer your question to the Economic Development Council, so I have talked with them. You know, there are KRS regulations that they can't discuss. So I have talked with them. I knew this was going on because that's what I work with, and I could hear rumblings. But the young lady did her job because she didn't tell me. So my first encounter was last Thursday with this company. I wished it could be a little bit different. I have been through this process in another state, and they engaged industry in the process, and but they brought this company to Kentucky, so they did their job. We just need to do a little bit more. And I guess if I had a wish, I wish they would engage with the industry just a little bit. I mean, I represent both Democrats and Republicans. I don't care. I sign a waiver. I think we could have helped a little bit, and that's what I told the young lady. I said, you know, you get this thing, you're gonna need us because of just what Senator Webb said. But I have had engagement, but I couldn't talk.
And I understand, but in all fairness, and I'm not playing politics, because it would be wonderful if we could be engaged and get this to Kentucky. You know, the governor has been pretty busy bringing in new jobs. So maybe the focus has been on that particular instance with Ford, and now the administration could be working. I'm not speaking for them, but with everything else that's going on, there are a lot of things that are happening, and they could be working without discussing with your organization, but it could be those discussions taking place. I support the letter. I voted yes, and I'm glad that the chairman brought it to us. But just to make it on the public record that a lot of things are going on, and behind the scenes, there's a lot of things that cannot be said because of the negotiation process.
But in my job, when I did talk to them, they answered my questions. But they just couldn't disclose some of the pertinent stuff.
That's the natural way of doing it.
That's the natural way progression.
Right.
But then
I support it.
Then it's gotten out, and then it's, you know, it's gotten away from them, really.
Right. Well, I hope that we are able to secure that industry here and secure those jobs for Kentucky. Thank you so much.
It's not just our jobs for Kentucky, but it's for our citizens and our consumers, because this is not just about the people that live in rural America. This is about the people that live in the cities, because it's about food and food security. So I think this thing is all the way across.
I agree. And like your wife, my wife has let me have it too when we were not able to get the meat that we needed. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I wish we could spend more time on this, obviously, but we really do appreciate you guys coming.
Nikki won't take as much time.
Thanks. I won't really, though.
All right, thank you. introduce yourself, Nikki, for the record. I think everybody in the room knows you, but we'll get you on record, and then the floor is
Maybe
yours.
not. So my name is Nikki Whitaker. I'm the membership coordinator for the Kentucky Cattlemen's Association. So it's an honor to present in front of you guys. I know it's been a while since we've been here, and so for everybody on Zoom too, I do want to say, first and foremost, we are the trade association for cattle producers in Kentucky, so we're proud of that. My job is to help the members. So our members are your constituents. And so today I just kind of wanted to give an overview of something else that's been talked about, especially during the pandemic. We're hearing a lot of that today. So again, I'm going to keep my comments brief on cattle insurance program. And I am also not an insurance agent nor an economist, so I might not be able to answer technical questions, but I wouldn't be doing my job as the membership coordinator for KCA if I didn't learn every opportunity to help our cattle farmers. So as we all know, 2020, with the pandemic, a lot of farmers, our CFAP monies started coming in. So we really started looking at other ways to help our farmers in Kentucky. I think you all have a fact sheet. It is from USDA. So, but the Livestock Risk Protection Program is implemented through USDA, their risk management agency. Now, technically, this program's been around since 2004. It's very similar to crop insurance. But obviously, after several disruptors that have happened, and that included the Tyson fire in 2019, plus the pandemic, and plus, like Senator West was speaking of, with the cattle prices, I think our producers really started looking into how to protect their assets. So more farmers started looking into LRP, and I will call it LRP from now on. For example, in 2020, again, even in the pandemic, 81 policies were sold. Already in 2021, there have been 601 policies sold, and there are already 191 policies sold for 2022. So again, just to give you a very brief overview, producers can purchase the market protection from insurance agents. A lot of people went out and got their agent certification because they saw an uptick in this. So again, through KCA and our Cow Country News, a lot of those insurance agents are advertising. So if you're not a member, you can get that with our Cow Country News, or you can just contact our office if your constituents want to find an agent in their area. We can help them find that. But again, it's similar as buying crop insurance. I know a lot of you guys are crop farmers here on the panel. So, and a lot of crop insurance agents also sell LRP policies. Another factor enticing the cattle farmers is recently those subsidy levels went up. They went up to 35%, and so that really enticed a lot of cattle farmers to buy in when they hadn't before. I think it is important to note that while LRP policies offer market price protection, it has no influence on the price the producer will receive for their cattle. So producers still need to market and their cattle the same way. It just kind of gives them that protection during a market decline. So again, those comments are brief. I just wanted to give you all an overview because I think Representative Heath had said there were some constituents that were looking and asking questions. Again, our office is not an insurance agent, but we do deal with a lot of agents across the state. For example, the Oklahoma State University, they came out with that big paper on the economic damages to the U.S. beef cattle. And in it, it really showed the lack of protection that cow-calf farmers have. I think a lot of our fed cattle farmers, you know, they've got some of that protection, but when you look at cow-calf, our protection wasn't near as good as it needed to be. So again, as the trade association, we went to work on looking at maybe increasing those subsidies. 45% would be really nice as well. I know 35 enticed, but 45 wouldn't hurt. And then another little thing I can't help but point out, the policy is based on CME, the weight index. I won't get into the details of all of that because that's a whole other presentation. But that's based on your 800 weights. If we had maybe a calf index for 500 weights, that would really help a lot of that pricing model. So that's another thing. Cow-calf producers, we were a little bit limited when it came to those lighter weights. So if we did anything, I know we worked with our national affiliate in CBA to put it into their policy to work for government solutions to help the cow-calf producer a little bit more on LRP. So that's what we're still working on, is maybe increasing those subsidies and also maybe looking at creating a new calf index for weights. I will try to answer any questions, but again, I'm not an agent, so be kind.
Thank you, Nikki. And actually, in the interest of time, members, I'd like to hold all of our questions to the end and make sure all of our presenters have a chance to present. And I think, used an appropriate amount of time up to this point because we had subjects that needed to be discussed. But thank you. If you don't mind hanging around, if someone has a question, check with Nikki on your way out, or we'll bring her back to the table. And I want to do one more small change in our program. In the back of your folders, the committee members, you'll see an article from my local paper. It talks about farmers can now apply for agriculture exemption numbers, and probably most of you have already done that. There's also a sample application of what if you haven't applied for one. But my goal today was to try to make our ag community aware that they need to have this number by January 1 because what they've done in the past will no longer work. And Chairman Hornbeck, I'll put you on the spot a little bit and ask you to weigh in on this. And have you gotten yours, and what does it look like? Because I don't have one.
I've gotten mine, and it looks like a lot of the other cards you have to carry anymore. I also went yesterday, just so you know, I went yesterday and applied for my Medicare card. So I've got that too. Got them all laminated.
That's an important one.
If you remember, Senator Givens got this legislation passed a couple years ago. It's something we've been working on for quite a while. It's to simplify the process as much for the retailer as it is for the farmer on the tax exempt status that farmers have in agriculture. So there's not a lot of discrepancy. If you're a retailer, the retailers really love this because they're not going to have as many audits as what they've had in the past. You'll be permanently, once you apply and have your number, you will be added into their system to where you will be tax exempt on your status. We didn't change any of the exemptions or anything like that. It's just a process you go through to apply. So please get this information out to all your farmers that are out there. We hope that it takes some of the fraud maybe that was in the system. I think it eliminates some of that. But the big one, it helps more than anybody else. It's just a little bit of an aggravation for the farmer to apply for it. But the big one it helps is the retailer and the amount of audits and everything that they had to do. So we're really happy to have this done. Encourage everybody to make sure they get their card. Thank you.
It stops a lot of them that don't.
The good part about this, it stops the ones that are going to try to file for this. That's the good part, that aren't able to. So.
Yeah, from the retail standpoint, a lot of this was on the honor system. As long as someone would come in and agree to sign an exempt form, we let them have it, and probably they didn't all deserve it. So we want to get the tax credit where the tax credit's due and take it away from the others. So didn't want to spend a lot of time on that. Just wanted to bring it to your attention. We'll get back to our regular scheduled program and talk about chronic disease, chronic wasting disease. And Rich Storm, Commissioner, is with us by Zoom.
Yes, can you all hear me this morning?
We can, Rich. Welcome. And go ahead and introduce yourself, even though I've done it, but introduce yourself for the record, and the floor is yours.
Rich Storm, Commissioner, Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife. Gabe, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sorry about that. Gabe Jenkins, Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife. I'm our Acting Information Education Division Director and the lead for the CWD response.
Thank you, Gabe. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for having us here today. And I want to thank the Ag Committee for what you all do. Gabe and I are both farmers, and we're happy to be here today to let you all in on what's going on in our state. But we want to try to be brief and field some questions from you all today. But approximately about a month ago, we got a call from our counterparts in Tennessee, and they had a clinical doe 8 miles south of the Kentucky border. And with 2 positive tests, determined that animal had tested positive for chronic wasting disease. And many of you here on this committee, you're familiar with this. Chronic wasting disease has been detected in 26 other states. Being 8 miles from our border, we're really disappointed to hear that. Chronic wasting disease is a neurological disease that is always fatal, and it's transferred from blood, saliva, and bodily fluids. Why this is important, why we wanted to be here today, is Kentucky has a $550 million annual impact when it comes to deer hunting. And so it's a huge deal, but beyond that, and more importantly, public health and public awareness are why we wanted to share this with you all today. So since we have detected CWD in Tennessee, and not in Kentucky, but 8 miles from our border, our CWD response plan is now in place. That basically means a 30-mile circle is drawn from that point, which basically means Graves, Marshall, Hickman, Fulton, and Callaway County are all basically in that surveillance zone. So what does that mean for you all? Chairman Heath, Senator Howe, and Representative Imes, and perhaps, I'm not sure if we have any other members on this committee. That means mandatory check stations in those counties during modern firearm season and muzzleloading seasons. It also means there's a baiting ban in those counties. And I should probably back up and say, I'm really proud of our team. We basically started an emergency response, and this has been ongoing really day and night. And so we're prepared for this. After 20 years of work, we have known CWD is close and it's moving closer. And so our team is prepared, but we're certainly going to mold and modify according to what we find out. So the key to this thing is going to be the testing. And so I brought Gabe Jenkins today. He's our CWD coordinator, and you're going to hear all kinds of acronyms from the department. And we're going to try to say chronic wasting disease as much as possible, but CWD is something that you'll hear. You'll hear other acronyms from other zoonotic disease, but this is big news for Kentucky Fish and Wildlife.
Thank you, Commissioner, and good morning, committee. Thank you for the opportunity to allow us to come speak to you. Commissioner Storm kind of gave a great highlight of the status of chronic wasting disease and how it's really begun to impact us here in Kentucky. We know he mentioned it. I'd like to make sure everybody's clear. We've not detected the disease here, but it's really close. We've been monitoring here at Fish and Wildlife for CWD for nearly 20 years, and we've collected over 32,000 samples to date. Just a little bit about the disease, just so we're all understand the basics. CWD is commonly confused with other diseases that affect deer here in Kentucky, specifically EHD, which is technically called hemorrhagic disease or blue tongue. Hemorrhagic disease occurs every year here in Kentucky. It's a virus, and deer can be exposed and survive. However, in some years, the mortality rate can be high, like 2007, 2017 are years that many of us remember, and in other years it's very low. Deer who contract hemorrhagic disease don't always die, and the disease does not live in the environment. Unfortunately, chronic wasting disease is both always fatal and it lives in the environment. CWD is really caused by an abnormal protein that can be found throughout the deer's body. The most infectious material is the brain, spinal cord, lymph nodes, and saliva. For us, our goal is try to reduce the number of ways deer artificially concentrate in one spot and try to slow the spread of the disease. If we have it here in Kentucky, we want to find it early. If we detect the disease early, it has been documented that you can slow its spread. So getting specifically into what we've done here as a result of the detection in Tennessee, we established a surveillance zone in the 5 most western counties in Kentucky. Those counties are Fulton, Hickman, Graves, Callaway, and Marshall. A handout should have been distributed to everyone within the committee that I'll kind of highlight and go over. But I will say that all the information on our hunting or about CWD has been updated on our hunting guide, and it's on our website. And we've done everything that we can so far and plan to do so to inform our hunters on the following restrictions. So in those counties, landowners and deer hunters can no longer feed or bait of all wildlife. Deer will eat nearly anything. So we're trying to reduce all the unnatural food sources that we put on the landscape. We still want to allow our landowners to feed the birds in your backyard and normal agricultural practices such as cover crops, ag plantings, your cattle mineral blocks, and food plots. Secondly, the carcass of any deer harvested within the surveillance zone cannot leave that zone unless that carcass has been deboned, so the meat's been taken off the bone, and the skull has to be cleaned and the brain removed. Thirdly, when you transport a harvested deer, you must affix a carcass tag to the animal. We require some basic information on that tag that basically includes you, some hunter information, and some information about that deer. Fourth, we no longer allow the rehabilitation of deer, and any deer that are currently being rehabbed in these 5 counties must be released within that county. And then lastly, we are requiring all deer harvested during the early muzzleloader season, the modern gun deer season, and the late muzzleloader season to come to a mandatory CWD check station for sample collection. So with that, how that will look like, we've had a lot of questions asked of us. We are going to have 17 check stations in those 5 counties. We are going to be open at those stations from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. Central, and then from 8 a.m. until noon on the Monday following the season closure. So with everybody should have less than a 10-mile drive to come to one of our check stations. Through this effort, we hope to collect a little more than 5,000 samples. And when a hunter comes to one of our check stations, they will get a card where we will put down the sample number and then directions on where they can go to see the result of that test. Lastly, if a hunter wants to get a deer tested and it's outside of the mandatory testing requirements, we have a collection station that is a self-serve kiosk to hunters that they can submit a sample on their own. We have one of those kiosks in all of the 5 counties that are impacted by our restrictions, and it's just another way for us to offer that service to our constituents. Lastly, it's our goal to be able to accurately inform our hunters if CWD is present in the surveillance zone. And with this plan that we have put into place, we hope to be able to accomplish that this year. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions that you guys have.
Since these guys are on Zoom, why don't we go ahead and take a few questions so we can turn them loose. I'm watching the clock. I'm conscious of our time. I know we got some more presenters, but I think we're doing okay. So Representative King and then Representative Pfister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for this team for bringing this before our committee today. I have 2 brief questions. Do we know if this is transmissible to humans, and then is the meat contaminated? Obviously, if we know the deer has CWD, it wouldn't be ingested, but if a deer is harvested, is there a danger in eating meat or any way to test to make sure that it's not in meat that isn't apparently affected? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So good question. Thank you for that. Right now, all scientific evidence says that it's not transmissible to humans. There are a handful of other diseases that are similar to this, and it's all been species specific that affects that animal. So right now, that's what all evidence says. We do recommend that if you are in a CWD surveillance zone or you're in an area where CWD has been detected, that you get that animal tested. You know, it takes a long time for the disease to persist to where the animal looks like it has the disease. So many times the animal can appear perfectly normal and healthy, even though it has it. So why we encourage people to get it tested, that way they can make an informed decision on whether to eat that meat or not.
I think that's good advice. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Pfister.
I want to thank both of you all for your presentation today. CWD's been on my radar for about 30 years now. We've seen things go on with it. Are we doing anything with the COVID ranching yet, or enter an intrastate travel of deer? Or and also I want to know why we're not testing archery takes out of those counties.
So I can handle the archery. Essentially is that for us, the scale up time to be able to require mandatory check is just not feasible, but also just the low number of samples that we would potentially collect. So on average, we harvest about 7,000 deer in those 5 counties. We should be able to get the bulk of them through this. It's going to be a pretty heavy lift for our agency to man these check stations. We anticipate we're going to need about 70 employees a day. And it's just the number versus the amount of time that we would invest. And however, I'll say that we've not detected the disease either. So right now we're just in surveillance mode. If we were to detect an animal, our response would look different in regards to testing.
Senator Howe.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you, the commissioner, for your really prompt response on this. The Tennessee County borders my home county, and they literally were on this the same day that the deer was discovered down in Tennessee, which is really impressive and really remarkable to be able to jump on this that quickly, and I thank you for that. I've got just a couple of questions on this. What exactly are we doing as far as hunter awareness? Because I know in our area we have a lot of people that come in and guided hunters that aren't from the state, and even a lot of those that are just used to doing their own thing and doing their hunting the way they've always done it. How are we specifically trying to reach those people?
So our actions have really been twofold. One is just creating the content, and we're now starting to get that information out. So we as an agency have done an update to our hunting guide. We've made multiple social media posts. We've reached out to the hunters and the folks who have hunted and who also have hunting privileges in those 5 counties with some emails. We're also working on a direct mail component to all of those individuals, including the outfitters. We have worked with our Kentucky Afield TV show and hosted a 1-hour CWD call-in show that aired on our social media and then also aired on KET. By coming here and talking about this committee everywhere that we can to try to get the word out is what we're trying to do. It's a challenge for us because we're in the middle of the season and the hunting guide is already out. But we've updated that guide. We're sending the new updates to all the vendors, licensed sales vendors in those 5 counties. We're working with all of our local constituents as far as taxidermists and processors there, literally trying to do everything we can to inform the folks in those 5 counties.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I have another question quick.
Sure, go ahead.
One of the things that has come up in our area is some of the baiting. There are remnants of the baiting in certain fields where they would lay grain out and everything that you can't just pull it all out of the ground. That and some of the minerals that are put down. How are your agents on the field handling that from a timing of removal of the bait?
I'll be glad to handle that. This is a difficult situation, and that's a great question. So a number of our hunters, they'll use a salt block or some kind of magnesium block, and deer actually dig a hole and even eat the soil. And so what we're asking people to do is just not continue to add to that location. And so we're going to work with the public in the best way that we know how. This is something that happened right before season, so we know that people they've bought trophy rock, they've gone to southern states and they've bought minerals to put out. We're we're just going to make sure that they don't continue to do so. I do want to add to Gabe's response previously. Our website is a wonderful tool, and you can search chronic wasting disease and you can find out current updates. But we're also meeting with local officials, and if anybody would like to participate or see us, we're going to go down to those 5 counties. We're going to meet with magistrates, commissioners, county judge, executives, and we just want to work through this process with everybody, and we want to be the best resource that we can be.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. I want to thank you personally. From being directly and actively involved within a couple of hours of finding this out is truly remarkable. It kind of flies in the face of what people say about state government and state bureaucracy, and we just appreciate your response on that.
Well, thank you. And again, our team, we had an immediate response. Nights, weekends, instant communication, folks answering their phones after hours. And so we are prepared for this. We were prepared for this. And it's a great team that we have assembled.
Thank you. Senator Webb will have our last question. Turn you guys loose and let you get back to work.
Just a brief comment. Thanks, Commissioner and others. I've worked on this issue for a couple of decades too on a national level. And the department and the General Assembly and everybody in those years, I think we've had a rational and responsible approach to CWD, but it's a big deal, and your heart really sinks and you get this stone in your gut when you hear CWD in the vicinity, because it can be such an impact to a state's bottom line, and especially a department like ours. It's license based and their sources of revenue. So this is very important for us all to monitor this, and I appreciate your diligence on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your support, Senator Webb.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll move on to our next presenters, and appreciate everything you guys do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to Martin Richards and Kimmie Ishmael. If you guys will come to the table and introduce yourself for the record, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. I forgot our thumb drive. Is it already loaded? Great. Again, I really appreciate this opportunity to talk about this important subject of food security. It's already been talked about. First, I want to introduce our policy campaign coordinator, Kimmie Ishmael. And Kimmie's going to do most of the talking. I'm just here for moral support, more or less.
And go ahead and state your name for the record.
Yes, I'm Kimmie Ishmael.
And then, Martin, did you mention your name?
I did not. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Martin
maybe I
Richard.
missed it.
Martin Richard, Executive Director, Community Farm Alliance.
Thank you. Go
So,
ahead, Kimmie.
so how do we get the PowerPoint up here? The Kroger one is still on here.
Help is on the way.
When you're done, if you can share it.
Okay.
And as usual, our members have a hard copy of your presentation in their folder.
Yeah. I can't see to present it. Can we have a technical person pull it up?
We need some more help.
I can't see the to present. I can't. Oh, there it is. Okay, sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine.
So I just want to thank you all so much for having us today and getting to talk about the issue of hunger and some possible solutions on that. And of course, want to thank Commissioner Quarles and the KDA, of course, for being on their leadership on this issue. So despite Kentucky being a top agriculture state, a staggering number of Kentuckians are actually food insecure. So for example, 1 in 7 Kentuckians and 1 in 5 children struggles with hunger. And we have some data from Feeding Kentucky's Map the Meal Gap from 2020, and that showed us that 6 Kentucky counties have food insecurity percentages of over 24%. Some of those counties included Harlan, Clay, and Wolfe counties. It also showed us that in western Kentucky, many counties are over 17%, and those the highest being Metcalfe, Grayson, and Fulton counties. And during the pandemic, Kentuckians and Kentucky families have been struggling even more. Pre-pandemic data showed us that national food security rates had been the lowest they had been in nearly 20 years, but the current crisis has reversed any improvement with millions of people newly experiencing food insecurity. And I will say Kentucky farmers have stepped up to the plate to try and help and feed those communities, but many are still really struggling. And our farmers are producing healthy foods, but Kentucky actually ranks 50th in consumption of fruit and vegetables. And not only that, but Kentucky consistently ranks in the bottom 10 nationally for diet-related outcomes. Kentuckians are not only starving for calories, but they are starving for nutrition as well. And a big factor in this is affordability and accessibility. So with seeing and acknowledging these problems, many organizations have stepped up to the plate in trying to shorten the line at food banks and developing different programs like Farm to Food Banks and Berea Kids Eats to try and address hunger and health outcome issues. But today we're only going to briefly touch on 2. So with the start of the Kentucky Double Dollars program, those utilizing SNAP, WIC, or use the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition programs can double their money on locally grown fruit and vegetables. And actually that was expanded over the last year to include Kentucky meat, eggs, and dairy. And now Kentucky Double Dollars is in over 49 farmers markets, 19 fresh stops, and actually 5 retail stores. And over the last 4-year period, there has been a 94% redemption rate across all of these incentives. And a newer program that has come up is Fresh RX for Moms, which is mothers on Medicaid. And this program has plenty of room to grow. This program provides participants to receive $20 in tokens for fresh fruit and vegetables each week for up to 40 weeks. And they'll have regular access to nutrition education and consultation with a dietitian. And in 2020, over $7,000 of that program was redeemed. But, there is so much more that we could be doing on this issue. With programs like Kentucky Double Dollars and Fresh RX for Moms, there are also many challenges, and those 3 being sustainability, growth, and meeting those match requirements. So how do we address these challenges, and what is the best route to ensure that these programs continue to feed hungry Kentuckians while also putting money back into the pockets of farmers? So luckily, though, in 2000, the Kentucky legislature had the foresight to devote tobacco master settlement funds to support agriculture and improve public health, whereas other states had set aside general funds to bolster healthy food access. The tobacco master settlement gives Kentucky a real unique opportunity to provide food and farm security. Even though healthy food access does impact both sectors, currently, only the agriculture portion of the funds are supporting programs like Kentucky Double Dollars and Farms to Food Banks. And this creates some instability. It jeopardizes sustainable funding for Kentucky's direct farm impact healthy food access programs. And a healthy farm and food fund would set aside about 1.5% of the total pool of the TMS funds to leverage additional federal dollars. This would significantly increase the amount of funding available to support successful programs, which ensure that low-income Kentuckians have access to affordable, healthy, and locally grown food. And more importantly, this would have a great impact on not only positive health outcomes for families, but would help farmers and stimulate our economy. I'm actually going to pass it over to Martin now to talk about a farmer and the impact some programs have had.
Yeah, as Kimmie said, I mean, we've been doing this program for a while now. Retail is obviously where most people shop, especially low-income folks utilizing SNAP. But retail is a lot different than a farmer's market. But we have been working with CW Foods in Eastern Kentucky that runs a chain of IGAs. And last year we piloted at their Manchester store, and this year we expanded to 3 other stores in the region just to see how it goes. I'm really happy to report that it has been very successful. And I would have liked to have Ted Johnson, one of the farmers here, but his wife insisted that he go on their annual vacation this week. But Ted has said, yes, I will testify anytime, because he has actually sold to other retailers in the past, and it's been a mixed bag. But he says this time has been different. There is a sense of commitment from these IGAs about this program, and they came to us, to be honest with you, about how to expand and get double dollars into their stores. And Ted said at this point he's sold $40,000 worth of fruits and vegetables so far this summer, and that it can only go up. And I think that opportunity could be extended to every farmer, not only in Eastern Kentucky, but, if we're able to scale it up, right? There is the potential that folks like, she's gone, it could be in Kroger too, right? For all that. But here's the challenge, right? As Kimmie said, there is a lot of federal dollars, especially for SNAP out there. There's almost $750 million a year through USDA for these programs. And we utilize some of those funds to make this happen, especially at retail, but it all requires a match to bring those down. So if we were to ever have the ambition to expand Kentucky Double Dollars to Kroger, we're going to need a heck of a lot more money. And the federal government has it. So that's the good news. And again, I don't have the numbers in front of me. We are working with UK's SEDIC on the actual economic impact and related to that. But for every one of these dollars that we'd be tapping, and currently right now it's largely through Ag Development Fund, they get doubled and tripled up by the time it goes through there, and keeping those monies in the local community, as opposed to, not to pick on anybody in particular, but going to Benton, Arkansas just means more for our communities. I know I took up more time than I said, but
no,
thanks.
It's fine. And, like the quote on the slide insinuates, this also adds to families' grocery budgets to be spent on Kentucky-grown foods, and putting money back into the pockets of farmers and keeping those dollars local. And economists do estimate that for every $1 a household redeems through SNAP generates about $1.70 in economic activity. So this is what I would call a win-win-win. So farmers increase their sales, families become healthier, while also stimulating our economy. So I will end in saying, I think introducing and passing this Healthy Farm and Food Fund legislation that is currently gaining support will build upon Kentucky's momentum and create stability and opportunities for direct farm impact healthy food access programs, while also paving the way for additional new efforts that support the vitality of Kentucky agriculture and the health of Kentuckians.
Thank you all.
Yes, thank you so much.
If you have any time for questions, we'd Love
Thank
to
you
answer.
for your presentation. At this time, I only have one person that's asked to either ask a question or make a comment. So I'll go ahead and ask Representative Graham, and then we'll move on to our next presenter.
If in Franklin County with our farmers market, and we thank for the support that your organization provides. I guess I'm gonna follow up with this question. Did I hear you right? I know the tobacco master settlement. You talked about the funding coming through that, but what did you say? Because I missed the comments about the general fund. If it was coming from the general fund, did I hear you correctly? Can you
Yes.
expound upon that again?
Yes, I did mention the general fund, but I just referred it from other states. A lot of other states use general funds to hold up, healthy food access programs, as to where Kentucky has the Tobacco Master Settlement Fund, which is kind of a unique opportunity to not use those general funds to hold up these programs.
So there's no matching funds. If you go through the general fund, there's no matching federal funds. Is that what you said? I mean, or am I hearing that correct?
No, we're not talking about general funds, right?
Okay.
I mean, I think, in 2000 with House Bill 611, the Kentucky legislature just made a huge and nationwide recognized precedent that said we're going to devote these funds to improving Kentuckians' health and diversify agriculture. And these programs to date that have been those four programs, the Ag Development Fund has been supporting those programs, right?
I'm aware of that, but I thought I heard you say with those other states putting general fund money that they were receiving more federal dollars as a result of that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Said?
Like New Mexico, Arizona has set aside their general funds to create what we're talking about that enables them to pull down more federal funds.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
you,
you,
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for coming and presenting and clearing that up for us. And if you don't mind hanging around, some of the members may want to visit with you one-on-one when we adjourn.
Certainly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. So next on our program is Dr. Kirk Pomper. And while you're coming and getting set up, I'll go ahead and make note to our members that our next meeting will be Wednesday, November 17th at 9 a.m. back in this room. So Dr. Pomper, if you'll introduce yourself for the record, and the floor is yours. Sometimes the computers have a mind of their own.
Yep. Great. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Committee, for the time to say a few words today and make some comments about the Kentucky State University Land Grant Program. And I'm just going to take a few minutes, just an overview. Basically, the mission of the Land Grant Program here at Kentucky State University is to serve the underserved in rural and urban settings, and especially with a focus on small-scale and minority farmers in Kentucky. And so we've got a range of programs. Of course, folks know about our aquaculture program, and hope you'll be able to eat some fish this year with us down at the campus with hopefully without COVID issues. But we have programs focused on alternative species and also on alternative production methods. Sustainable and organic agriculture is a big part of what we do. We have a goat research program, of course. Also have livestock nutrition, alternative crops like pawpaw and blackberry, organic vegetable production, and entomology and soil science areas. So a lot of different areas to serve the needs of the stakeholders of Kentucky. and also human health and nutrition areas, and some of that focuses on produce safety and water quality safety of stakeholders. So, but I just wanted to really focus in on just about 3 areas today, just to kind of update you on some things. And of course, we do have our program distinction is the aquaculture program. We are one of the top 5 programs in the United States, and that's across 1890 and 1862 land grant programs. And aquaponics is really has a lot of interest right now. It's expanded a lot out there, and we are the leaders in aquaponics and research and extension efforts in Kentucky. And so we've actually added a state specialist in aquaponics, Janelle Hager, who's leading that program now. And there's a lot of information out there that now is provided. We have an aquaponics manual that you can see on your screen right now. It's a very comprehensive production manual for folks who are interested in getting into aquaponics. And so you can download that from our website. And we also have a series of aquaculture programs and workshops that are offered either in person or online. So a lot of information out there for folks who are interested in this area. And we also, Jim Tidwell and Janelle were also able to bring in a $750,000 AFRI grant recently to really ramp up even further our aquaponics research end of things. So lots of good things going on in aquaponics right now. And we heard today, of course, the concerns of the supply chain and meat processing in Kentucky. And so, as you know, we've had a poultry mobile processing unit for some time at K-State. But, we really want to ramp up that capacity. And also, it is a trailer, so there's not a lot of room in that trailer. And so we did go with the funding and the meat committee that was set up at the Kentucky Ag Development Board. We did receive a grant to take the docking station, basically, that the mobile processing unit was going into and turn that into a building. And so it's not quite open yet. Should be open next month. We're just finishing up bathrooms right now. But it will be a facility that will double our ability to process birds out there for stakeholders to come and process their birds. Because right now there's only 3 other facilities out there in Kentucky to process poultry. And so we'll be being able to double our capacity. And so the idea is to take the trailer and go to pads in London and Moorhead, so stakeholders can go to those sites and process at the trailer. And then we'll have this larger facility at the K-State farm for stakeholders to come in and process chickens. So we're also adding an extension person who's going to help train and have folks be able to utilize that facility. We are one cooperative extension system in Kentucky with University of Kentucky and KSU. Greatly value that relationship. And we do have county folks out there who are in the same offices as in the county offices, UK and KSU personnel. And we are adding to those folks right now. We're replacing some and going into some new counties. And so it's a real commitment to ag natural resources and 4-H programming and others out there. And so a number of different things that we work on with UK also is agribility, Kentucky agribility. But we also have 4-H programs, some of those implemented across Kentucky, but a lot of those in Louisville and West Louisville. And also we have summer programs in STEM that have been very popular. Of course, Third Thursday workshop, every third Thursday down at the K-State Farm, you'll see a new topic for folks, and we're doing that both in person and online for folks to be able to participate. And then we are the largest meeting of minority farmers, the largest minority farmers conference in the state, which is going to be meeting very soon, the Small Limited Resource Minority Farmers Conference in the 3rd week of November. And so we're going to be in person again for that. So lots of good things, but I did want to mention something if you're not familiar with this. Another aspect of our extension program is a relationship that we've developed through the years with the Kentucky Ag Development Board, and that's the Center for Sustainability in Farms and Families. And so basically the funding from the Ag Development Board with the extension expertise at K-State, really it creates a synergistic ability for us to help small producers and underserved farmers statewide. And so basically these mini grants are up to $5,000 for individuals, and they're in aquaculture, value-added, organics, food insecurity, farmer education, agroforestry support. And we've actually had almost 900 grants during this period that we've had this relationship. covering 113 counties. And that's the thing, is we extend all across Kentucky. We're really impacting folks all across Kentucky with these different extension programs and our research. And a lot of those mini grants have been in the value-added area, but been in other areas also. I do have 3 examples. This is Travis Cleaver in LaRue County. He received funding for help get a CoolBot system, so he could have cold storage for his produce. This is Andre Barber in the middle, and he received funding for an aquaponics system to be able to set that up. And then we've got the Pikeville Farmers Market, and there's quite a few of the farmers at the Pikeville Farmers Market have applied and received many grants, but also the farmers market itself has received funding for a trailer to be able to keep things for the farmers market in it, so it can help supply and support that farmers market. So that's some of the things we're doing out there to help these small farmers in Kentucky. And I just wanted to finish up with the last slide. I want to thank you again for your support of the land grant program and providing the matching funds. We do receive almost $9 million in federal and extension USDA funds. It does require a 1-to-1 state match. And so, thank you again for your support, and we will be looking for your help again. But the great thing is, it's a great bang for your buck, because by matching those funds, we do hire a lot of personnel in research and extension. They write grants, and so we've got 17 grants going right now of almost $8 million that have been written by those folks, and a lot of other areas too, such as the NSF grant for over $1 million. And so it really does help add to the capacity to do even more for the stakeholders of Kentucky, and also allows us to be eligible for the 1890 USDA Scholars Fund. And right now we've got 50 students who are pursuing a career in ag at K-State, and 50% of those, it's 50 students, and about 50% of those students are Kentucky students. So, once again, lots of great things that can happen through your support. So once again, I want to thank you, and if you have time for a few questions, I'd love to answer those. So thank you very much.
You're welcome, and thanks for coming and presenting. And wanted to make sure that be sure and let us know when there's money that needs to be matched, so that we don't overlook something. Anytime we can bring in federal dollars through a match, we don't want to leave that money on the table. So don't assume we always know all the details. It's okay for the wheel to squeak every once in a while till it gets some grease, and appreciate that. And we have a question or comment from Representative Graham and then Representative Tipton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for those comments that you just made. And I hope that the university heard those comments from our chair, that we will let us know when we need to do those things. But, Mr. Chairman, I also wanted to recognize the acting president of Kentucky State University. She's in the room, President Claire Stamps, and with her is the Chief Financial Officer, Greg Rush, who's a former employee of LRC, who's worked in higher education for us, as well as the Council on Post-Secondary Education, and as well as Kentucky State. He has come back to Kentucky State, and we welcome his presence at Kentucky State. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Aquaculture Center, we had one individual, Dr. Tidwell, who's still with us, who at one point in time, this is how important our aquaculture is at Kentucky State University. It's not only known nationally, as I said yesterday in committee meeting, but it's internationally, because Dr. Tidwell, about 15 or 20 years ago, was asked to come to the Republic of Ireland to set up their system. And he declined, and I know that for a fact because his 3 children were at the high school that I was teaching at Frankfort High, and they were wanting to graduate from Frankfort High. And I don't think his late wife at the time, they wanted to make that transition, but he wanted to continue the work that he had started at Kentucky State University. And it is a renowned aquaculture center. So just a salute to you, as well as the university, for the efforts that have been made to make it a crown jewel of the research of aquaculture. So thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for your comments and those introductions. And had you not have introduced them, I would not have known who they are. So we appreciate that. Representative Tipton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate you being here today. I have been on the campus of Kentucky State and have toured part of your aquaculture program. A memory that I will never forget is all those shrimp in that tank. It was quite a sight to see. Most of the members may not realize that our land-grant institutions in the United States were actually formed under two separate federal acts. Kentucky State, I believe it was 1890, came in with the second. Could you elaborate a little bit about the differences in those statutes and specifically what the second statute Kentucky State's under, what your mission is?
Mm-hmm. Sure, and so that's correct. So the first act, 1862, forming those land grants, created a land grant institution in each state. But basically, in 19 of those states, there was not equal access for African Americans to be able to attend those schools, and so there was an 1890 Morale Act formed, which then set up additional schools, which really did focus on the agriculture, mechanical arts, and education, especially for African Americans in those states. And so, basically the emphasis is, and that's what you hear at the beginning of the talk, is that we're focusing on minority farmers, small farmers, stakeholders, underserved, served stakeholders, and so that's really our focus area. And so that's what we complement well with the University of Kentucky, current age, because we are focusing at different groups. We're not duplicating work. We're looking at slightly different populations and stakeholder bases. And so we've got the tools to go out there and reach some of those small farmers. And I think you see that with the Ag Development Board funds and the mini grants. A lot of those farmers really are intimidated by other granting programs, so we go out, help them develop those applications, and they wouldn't receive some of those funds without our help going out there and working with those stakeholders. So that's in a nutshell. And so it's different missions, but a similar commitment to the states and to the stakeholders, but with different stakeholders.
Thank you for coming and presenting. I don't see any more questions. So with that, our meeting will be adjourned, and feel free. Yeah. We do have one announcement.
Mr. Chairman, I've got something that I need to bring the attention of the committee, and the new members may not have heard me talk about these issues as much as the old members, but at 11 o'clock in Judiciary, there's a bill going through in relation to animal cruelty. This, too, can affect livestock. And it's got the paw prints of HSUS and other anti-animal groups all over it. There are some problematic provisions in this bill that will encourage more municipal law ordinances and alleged violations thereof. There are evidentiary standards that are quite low in this bill. They will not let a couple good, bad cases, crises go to waste. There are a couple anomalies when it comes to cost of animal care and the county's burdens and all this. But again, this is something I work with on a national level as an attorney that practices these cases, and see the progression of bills like this as they move forward. And I think this is something this committee needs to be concerned about. I think anybody that owns an animal needs to be concerned about this, whether it's domestic or livestock. And I'd be glad to talk further. I'm not on Judiciary anymore, but I do plan on monitoring this bill. I think agriculture is going to be impacted by this. If they don't like you, they'll cost you out. That's what this bill will do. I have been in cases where animals were targeted for forfeiture and confiscation because of their value. If they don't like you, when they lower standards of evidence in these cases and matters like they're trying to do here, and this bill is problematic. I'm all for, and this committee is, animal welfare and rational standards, whether it's veterinary care or whatever. We've done that for years. But I feel it's compelled to bring to the attention of this committee. This bill is in Judiciary today, and it needs to be monitored. Thank you all.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. I had the note right here and still almost overlooked it, and I was not aware of that, so I appreciate you sharing that with our committee. Have I missed anything else? Yes, Your mic. Your mic.
I see, when I arrived here, I arrived when we started, so I don't know if we recognize one of our former colleague, who's now the county judge, but the husband of our representative,
Imes.
Kenny Imes, and Mary Beth Imes. So I just wanted to recognize Kenny. I just now am recognizing who you are. I think a county judge's position has changed you a little bit. So that's a hard job to have, one of the toughest jobs in a county to have. But we welcome you back, and good seeing you, Kenny.
Thank you, Representative Graham, for pointing that out. And I shook hands with Judge Imes as I came up this morning, and I guess thought, well, he's been introduced now. Is there anything else I've missed or overlooked?
Just one comment on that. I'm glad to see that we've upgraded the position as we've worked our way through the items.
I wanted to say that, but I didn't.
All right, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.